It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha. Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Brouhaha. Marshall Wood and Dale McKee here, ready to talk a little sports action. How you doing, Dale?
Hey, I'm doing great. How you doing today?
Ooh, I'm all fired up and wrestled up.
Fired up. A lot been going on lately.
Red in the face, man. Yeah. I'm ready to fight somebody. How about you? You gonna put on a boxing demonstration right here?
No, I don't play any games that I may lose.
That's a good policy. I wish I was as smart as you are. I'll play them and lose, knowing I'm going to lose.
Well, not everybody got the opportunity to go to Big Four and get an education.
Well, that's right. You guys right. You capitalize on your opportunities. I got to hand that to you, brother. You're a good capitalization man.
There you go.
You know where to put your periods and your commas and your semicolons too, don't you?
Sometime.
I was looking at your weekly column here, the sideline view, and I'm just sitting here. We had the head coach from Southern Mississippi basketball over here some time back, and listened to him, and they had such a hard time last year, man.
Yeah,
and
they did.
And you mentioned incredible turnaround. He told us when he spoke to us, he said we got to get old quick. He must have gotten. He did.
He lost about his whole starting five from last year, basically.
Yeah.
Lost one to state and one to some other probably mid-majors or whatever what you want to call them, about his level or below. But he got a transfer from Ole Miss, Austin Crowley.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you what, Austin's been a great player. He's got I believe his last name is Pinckney. He scored 28 points yesterday. And so, he told us, too, that we need to shoot better from the outside. But the thing that impresses me about them is they play such good defense this year. They're getting a lot of turnovers, creating a lot of turnovers, which leads to easy baskets. You can go down there and shoot up a three all the day, but I'm like the philosophy of the Alabama coach. You either make and they're 7-0 in the SEC as we speak this week. They take three kind of shots: free throws, layups, and three-point shots.
You know why they do that?
I guess the percentages.
Analytics.
Yes.
That's a key term. I'm glad you brought that up because I read that. Everybody talks about Kiffin and his analytics, going forward on fourth down inside his own 20 or whatever. Analytics. They said there's only three shots to take. That's the three-point shot, the layup, or a free throw. Mid-range jumpers are out because analytically they don't add up. Isn't that something?
That's right.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I know when I coached junior high basketball, our philosophy was we need to create turnovers so we can score easy baskets on layups.
There you go.
And, of course, when they're junior high, sometimes they're not strong enough to hit a three-point shot. And so you just try to do things like that. So, it's working for Alabama now, but they seem like they got a lot of great talent.
Well, that don't hurt either.
Yeah.
Does it? But a 3-point versus a mid-range jumper. 3 points, a long-distance shot's worth 3 points. Mid-range jumper, 2 points. Wouldn't you think that that it'd be easier to make a mid-range jumper than a 3-pointer?
Well, that reminds me. Yesterday I heard this term used a lot. You got to get some big plays to win.
Yeah. Now,
I know Cincinnati kept the ball for 6 or 7 minutes one time against Buffalo, which really impressed me in that weather.
Yeah.
Without a turnover. But, you just got to make some big plays along the line. And so that's like, to me, the 3-point shot is like throwing a bomb down the field and trying to get a quick 6,
Yeah.
And so, all these sports intertwine a little bit in their philosophies.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you what, you started us off with a bang, man. I tell you what, we're cooking with gas here, but we got to stop because we got a guest to talk to tonight. Tell us about our guest, Dale.
Well, she is the general manager, publisher, editor of the Rebel Walk out of Oxford, Mississippi. Her name is Evelyn Van Pelt, P-E-L-T. She is a journalism graduate from Texas A&M University.
Oh.
And so she's probably a Texas girl, but she got over this way because her daughter was on the volleyball team, came over here to play volleyball, and we get a lot of Texas kids up there at Ole Miss, seems like. And so, she just kind of fell in love with the place. But, if you've ever visited Oxford, the Grove, the town, the square, why wouldn't you fall in love with it?
Maybe some of these transfer quarterbacks will fall in love with the place. But
Evidently,
anyway,
a couple of them have.
we'll digress. So I'll tell you what, this should be interesting. Let's take a break to hear from a sponsor, and then we're going to be back right after this commercial with tonight's guest. We'll see you in a minute.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome to the show, Evelyn Van Pelt with Rebel Walk in Oxford, Mississippi. And we're going to talk Ole Miss sports today, and that's all we're going to talk about. So we're glad to have an expert today with us, Marshall.
Yes, we are. Welcome to the show, Evie.
And so glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, what's the weather like in Oxford?
Oh, well, it's, for me, anything under 70 degrees is a little too cold.
Okay.
So right now I'm a little bit cold, out of my element. So it's always great to be in Oxford, though. I mean, pretty much any weather you could give me, if I'm in Oxford, Mississippi, I'm probably pretty happy. So sunny and cold.
There you go. Well, I think that's for the whole state this week. Listen, tell us how you got to Oxford, Mississippi to start with.
Well, I can't believe I'm going to age myself here, but about 20 years ago, my daughter got a volleyball scholarship to play volleyball at Ole Miss, and that was about 2002. And so she had committed actually early, so probably 2001. And we've had relatives in Mississippi. We're actually from Texas, had relatives in Mississippi, but when Katie got a volleyball scholarship there, we became the world's biggest Ole Miss fans. So we're going on, like I say, 20 years now. And just absolutely, like Sinquez Golson would say, if you don't want to come here, don't take a visit. And that's what happened with Katie and us. So don't take a visit or you'll want to come, and we did. So been Rebels ever since.
Yes, we had a player from Wayne County up there several years ago, Benito Jones, played defensive lineman, and he came to me one day and he said, I'm going to visit Oxford. And I said, well, now don't go there unless you plan on signing, because once you go there, you're going to sign Benito.
And so, that's right.
So that's kind of
one of my favorites, too.
Yeah. Anyway, so you got a background in Texas. Okay. So tell us how Rebel Walk got going for you. And just tell us some general stuff about Rebel Walk.
Well, we actually got started. We're starting our 10th year. I was fortunate enough to get to work for HottyToddy.com back, I want to say, like 2013. And that's back, let's see, when Ed Meek owned it, and Adam Brown is his sports editor, really nice guy, still sports editor there today. And so that's when I first started covering Ole Miss. I had covered sports in Texas and written for some newspapers in Texas, but really, like I say, I got into Ole Miss football, and my first season covering Ole Miss was recruiting that wonderful recruiting class with Tim Dichie and Tunsil and Laquan Treadwell. So, boy, I started off with a bang. That was exciting. And anyway, just ended up when the following year, I want to say 2014, when Ole Miss went to Omaha, I had the idea of starting an outlet of my own, and just that's when the Rebel Walk was born. And we've been doing it, like I say, for about 10 years now. So folks can go to therebelwalk.com and also find us on Twitter. We're up to about 30,000 followers. So we're just really thankful for the Ole Miss community for embracing us.
Well, that sounds fantastic. From where you were to where you are now, that is fantastic. So, you say that you went to, Omaha. I assume you went to Omaha in 2014?
Yes.
And,
it was funny. I was in Lafayette for that series, and when we lost the first one and then came back and won the next two to get to Omaha in 2014, and just had a feeling about that team that year. Will Allen was the catcher, just one of my all-time favorite Ole Miss players. Just had a feeling about that team, and honestly, just had a feeling about the team last year. And I know a lot of people may say that, but I'm on record, one of my writers who does a show for us was going to start talking about, where does Ole Miss go now after, not making the tournament. And I said, hold on, my friend, I think we're going to make it. And he said, Evie, I don't know. You're always optimistic, but this one might be a little bit of a stretch. So from last team in to last team out, that was just, I'll never get over that.
No, that's one of the great stories in probably college baseball for someone to do that. That's like a last place seed in the basketball tournament, even making it to the Sweet 16. They brag about them, like what have they done?
Right.
And baseball is just, I got to see them play in Hattiesburg at the when they played Southern Miss, and you could almost tell they were just gaining confidence every day down there, And so
it was.
That was
I don't
story.
know that they just steamrolled through the whole tournament, not dropping a game, and really just like Tim Elko said, I get goosebumps when I think about it. Don't let the Reds get hot, and oh my gosh, I just don't know that there's been a run through the NCAA tournament like the Rebels had en route to Omaha.
No, it was an experience, and it was probably one of the top news stories of the sports world, especially in Mississippi last year. So what about this year's? Just a short topic about this year's Rebel baseball team.
Well, honestly, I'm always on the optimistic side, but I think with who we're returning, I realize, you lose your leadoff guy and bench and your three-hole guy and Graham and your cleanup hitter and Elko. That's pretty tough, but much less Dylan DeLucia. But, I think we just had 3 pitchers named to the SEC Pitcher of the Year watch list: Hunter Elliott, Jack Doherty, and true freshman Grayson Saunier. And so, to me, and you couple that with having back Chatinier and Gonzalez and McCants and Alderman, honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm looking for another trip to Omaha.
Hey, you're an optimistic person there, Evie. We
believe to achieve.
Yes, don't let the Rebels get too hot, huh? So
That's right.
All right, so we'll just touch on basketball for a minute. The men's team seems like that. They just don't shoot the ball well, and they seem to have problems. Of course, they've had some injuries, and they had a person sit out last Saturday against Arkansas. But what you think about the future of Rebel basketball? Is there going to have to be a change up there?
My goodness, I tell you, they're really struggling, and I think it's just one of those that, boy, when times are bad, things can just get to snowballing on you. And they play Missouri, of course, this Tuesday, and then in the SEC Big 12 Challenge, they'll play Oklahoma State over the weekend. So, things were looking a little good. Beat South Carolina, thought we might be getting back on track, and then lose to Arkansas by 12. So it's crazy. I think with this team, I think Kermit built this team to, kind of really work on defense and rebounding, and that's been much better this year. But scoring, we just have had a hard time getting the ball in the bucket. So I think against Arkansas, really probably the difference in the game was that we had 17 turnovers that led to 15 Arkansas points. So you lose by 12 and you give up that many points off turnovers, you got to take care of that.
Yes, well, now the women's team has kind of I don't say beat up the last couple of games, but was the schedule maybe not that difficult the first 5 games? Because they seem to be losing to some mediocre teams here in Alabama and Auburn.
Yeah, I do. Coach Yo on our post-game press conference with her yesterday, of course, was very disappointed. I think another thing, turnovers. Ole Miss had 21 turnovers in that game. So, not a lot of basketball games I don't think you're going to win with 21 turnovers, and they managed to get to overtime, as you know, and then lost. But, I think that probably you're right. Maybe things were a little easier. I know we beat Auburn before when we opened up conference play with them by, almost 30 points or so. But I think they had a couple of girls back that maybe they didn't have. I think the girl that finished with 31 points last night maybe didn't play when we played them the first go-round. So there could be that. I think, we got in foul trouble, and that really dictated a lot of people played a lot of minutes, and as Coach Yo said, she didn't really have much of a bench yesterday, because of that. And so I don't know. I mean, I think I really like Coach Yo a lot. I think she's a good coach, and I think that she'll get him back on track.
Evie, I want to kind of change, this is Marshall, I want to kind of change gears on you here for a minute and flip over to the football side. And a lot of activity, of course, and the quarterback room's kind of getting interested up there at the University of Mississippi. I mean, we got Dart coming back, went and got Walker Howard. We got the kid from Oklahoma State. Talk to us about that. That looks like a pretty crowded and powerful quarterback room.
It sure does. I think probably I was thinking this last week, before Spencer Sanders and Walker Howard committed, I think a lot of people were wondering, what in the world are we going to do? We've got one quarterback, and we all know it's awfully tough to live in the world of the SEC West with just one quarterback. And so folks were wondering a little bit, and then all of a sudden I think we went from the emptiest quarterback room to probably, I think, legitimately one of the best quarterback rooms in the country, picking up Walker Howard as a transfer from LSU, and then the next day, last week, Wednesday and Thursday, then getting Spencer Sanders from Oklahoma State. I think it's going to be incredibly interesting. I mean, it's really something to keep an eye on. I think it's wide open. I think Dart, completed 62% of his passes last year, 2,000 yards. He's going to come back into spring training and knows the offense and such. And, I think Sanders, it's hard to count out a guy who passed for, almost 10,000 yards in his career as a four-year starter. And I think he accounted for 67 touchdowns, and then maybe almost another through the air, and then maybe, I think, a total of 85. So rushing also. So boy, it's hard to count that guy out. And Walker Howard, I wanted him last year, and when Lane Kiffin wanted him last year, I wanted him, and we just didn't get him to campus, or we might have gotten him. But anyway, I'm just so excited to see how that shakes out.
I'm not going to get into ask you to prognosticate. I guess that's the word I'm looking for in a bit. But I tell you what, you bring a guy like your Oklahoma State transfer, I'm going to tell you what, that guy's going to be expecting to start. I mean, he's got 1 year left. And I don't know, man. I'm sitting here as an outsider looking in. I mean, Dart's got a lot of work to do. I'm going to have a struggle, I think. I mean,
yeah, I mean, this is not, you're absolutely right. I don't think a 4-year starter, I think he was the Big 12 player of the year. I mean, not player, the first team quarterback 1 year, was MVP of, I think, good grief. He led them last year, 2021, to Fiesta Bowl win over Notre Dame. I mean, it's not like he's any slouch. And I don't know if y'all saw the comments that he made, but you probably did, where he said after he committed, I believe in me. A lot of people would wonder, why are you going into, a quarterback room with a returning starter? But I believe in myself. And so I'm with you. I think it's going to be a challenge.
we're getting close to the end of our time, but just give us a quick, your quick opinion on where the Rebels are with their recruiting process for football, how they're doing. Kind of give them a grade, if you will. If that's a fair question, then we'll have to wrap up here pretty quick. Tell us what you think about that.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, they have in the transfer portal as of today. Ole Miss has moved up to number 3 overall in the transfer portal ranking. I think only behind Colorado and UCLA, and that's in the on 3 rankings. I think they might. I know they're top 10 in 247. So they've really come on in the transfer portal, which is of course what Lane Kiffin is known for. Being the portal king this year seems to be no different. They signed a small recruiting class back in December. I want to say 12, but got a lot of really talented kids that I think can help out in some definite areas of need. So, and they're not done yet. I mean, I look for that next portal window is May 1st through the 15th, and I think we're going to see some commitments between now and then. And then in the February signing period. So I think the Rebels are going to finish strong.
Yeah, a lot left. Well, listen, Eva, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your knowledge that you brought to our show tonight. But it's time for us to wind this segment down. We're going to sign off here take a commercial break, but we want you to hang with us. Now, don't hang up on us, okay? Hang with us.
I won't. Thank you, guys.
Okay, we're going to take Dale, you got something you want to say?
Yeah. I just wanted to ask her, while we still have our listeners, how they can, get with her on that internet stuff.
Oh,
okay.
Thank you so much.
I mean, do you have
they can go to
do you have a
therebelwalk.com, and then they can follow us on Twitter at The Rebel Walk. They can follow us. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, The Rebel Walk. And then I'm on Twitter at Ole Miss Evie. And we would love to have people come follow us.
All right, Evie, thank you for that. Now, you hang with us, but we're going to take a break right now to hear from our sponsor, and Dale and I will be back with the final segment of tonight's Brouhaha right after this break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome back to the Brouhaha, everyone. I tell you what, Dale, I really enjoyed Evie. She's a good interview. She knows her stuff.
She's a homer, isn't she?
Yes, sir, but she loves them Rebels, don't she?
She does. Knows all about everybody up there, right?
Yeah.
So that's
I was just thinking, Dart may be in that transfer portal she's talking about before we get to the summer.
May 1st through 15th.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about. Here's one. Do you know Ed Reed? You ever heard that name?
I just remember he used to knock the stuffings out of wide receivers back in the day.
Man, a beast. He got all excited about what was going on, what Deion did up there at Jackson State. He wanted to go over there to Bethune-Cookman and kind of fill that role and everything, and they brought him in, and he got to going, and they said, whoa, wait a minute. They kind of pushed him on out the door. They didn't think he was going to work for him. I think he was a little too aggressive and a little too rough around the edges, said he cussed the football players. Can you believe that a coach would cuss a football player?
And you let him go.
Huh? And they let him go.
You can't do that.
Of course, I see just some other things here. He was talking bad about the facilities. He needed to watch Deion's exit conference. I mean, he was doing the same thing at Jackson State. I mean, they're hammering these guys. If they want to come up and get to the top, they got to spend that money. You got to get those facilities. You got to take care of these players. And they thought, Bethune-Cookman just thought they wanted Ed Reed. Ed had probably done him a good job.
Yeah, you got to have that name recognition at those schools. Gramblin's got Hugh Jackson, used to be Cincinnati Bengals head coach for a long time, offensive coordinator for quite a few NFL teams. But some of the articles I read early on is he was, he wasn't under contract. He had never signed a contract with them. And he said, I'm coming to work every day working without a contract, and they got people just sitting around down here doing nothing. So I think that kind of irritated him a little bit. But it always goes back to money, doesn't it?
Usually does.
Price of eggs, everything goes back to money, right?
Goes back to money.
Yeah.
You got to have the money. Did I hear her say that Colorado had where were they ranked in the transfer portal? #1. Who's the head coach out there doing that recruiting? Prime time, baby.
Coach Prime.
Coach
Yeah,
Prime
I remember him.
is in the Pac-12 with the #1 recruiting.
Mississippi's in his rear view mirror.
He just signed what the kid the year before last at Jackson State was the #1 defensive back. He just signed the #1 defensive back, or got him committed, I guess, or signed him this year, and as offered the #1 player, regardless of position. He's not shy, is he?
No, he's not.
Is he going to win?
Yeah. But now, I looked at his schedule the other day.
It's tough.
Because, and I looked at his schedule, and it's going to be tough for him to have a winning season by rebuilding the whole team in 1 year.
Yeah.
But I think you do like Jackson State. You know, first year at Jackson State, he kind of broke even, and then he started getting better. But I really have a lot of confidence in him because I think he's a big name that's going to attract recruits to Colorado, which is a hard place to recruit, especially black athletes in the past. But, I still get over his news conference when he was up there. He said, I'm glad to move to a city that doesn't have any crime. So I don't know what that meant.
Well, they stole his stuff out of his locker the first game up there he played.
And they broke into his son's truck right from the field house.
Yeah,
So, and I'm not saying Jackson's a bad place, but it's like in anywhere. You could have 1,250,000 people live in Jackson area like you do, and you're always going to have about, 100 that are just out of control.
Yeah.
So,
Anything on your mind you want to kick out there? I got another thing or two. We can just dance around, but if you got anything you want to chunk into the mix.
Well, we could talk about one of our former coaches here at Wayne County getting in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And what else?
I don't know.
Okay. Talk. Who we got?
Well, the Mississippi Association of Coaches supposed to announce this week, but they let me go ahead and put it in my column, and I appreciate them doing that they're going to announce the Mississippi Association of Coaches Hall of Fame, and that's for high school coaches. And so we're going to have Marcus Bowles, who coached at Wayne County for about 10 years, won about 3 state championships, won a couple at Taylorsville.
Well, wait a minute. Marcus Bowles?
Mm-hmm. Do you know him?
Is that the guy that's going to be coaching the Wildcats at Meridian High School next year?
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It's a great honor. Man's got 295 wins. I don't see how you can keep him out.
Yeah.
And another guy that a lot of people might know around here is Jack Kraft. Jack coached back in the 60s and 70s, 80s. He was really associated with Purvis more than anything. But Jack started his career at Richton, Mississippi.
The Rebels?
The Rebels. That was probably in the 60s. And so they had a lot of battles with Waynesboro Central.
Yes, sir.
Clara, Beat 4, people like that. So, that's kind of just the local things here. So what about you? Any interesting news?
Well, I don't know if it's interesting or not. I've kind of followed it. I call this the Rashada Chronicles. Does that name ring a bell with you, Rashada? June 26, 2022, Rashada commits to Miami less than a week after officially visiting the Hurricanes. He was ranked the number 7 quarterback. He was reported he turned down an $11 million NIL offer from Florida's Gator Collective to take a $9.5 million deal from Miami. That was on June 26th. On November 10th, Rashada flips from Miami to Florida. I guess that difference between $11 million and $9.5 kind of made a difference after all. He flips. On December 21st, Florida announces a 21-man signing class that included Rashada. On January 3rd, Rashada is among a collection of Gator signees participating in the Under Armour All-American game on the 9th. Classes begin at Florida, but guess who's missing? Rashada.
The $11 million man?
He's not there.
I'd be there.
Well, I think it gets a little more interesting. Rashada has asked for his release on January 13th, final day of spring registration. He's still in there. On the 17th, multiple outlets report Rashada is asked to be released. Now, we talked about that before. And the Associated Press on the 20th reported that Florida granted him his release. Now, I think it turns out that the Gator Collective, they terminated the $13 million deal before he signed with Florida. Now, why would they do that?
Because they probably figured he was not going to sign with them.
Well, yeah, he flipped to them, but they never did actually present him with the NIL deal. He signed on the promise of getting the deal. That he never got it. Some say that the collective, the Gator Collective, didn't have the money. Wow, this NIL stuff, man, it's creating. We know it's creating problems, but man, what a mess! What a mess that is.
I think it's going to run the sport. I know that.
Yeah, if they don't get control of it.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, we got control of the Brouhaha, don't we?
We do.
I think we do. Somebody does. Maybe it's us. Maybe it's not.
You're the owner, publisher, and editor of it.
Is that what I am? Mm-hmm. I thought I was just a guy that. Well, I don't know, but anyway, I'm glad to be here. I can guarantee you that.
I'm just your scout. I go out and scout people. I think you're good enough for Marshall's show.
Well, I tell you what, anybody that listens to this show knows who the macaroni is, baby.
No.
It ain't me. But anyway, we're out of time. So we want to encourage you to listen to the Brouhaha as you are. You can follow us during the week on Facebook at the Brouhaha, on our YouTube channel where all of our shows are chronicled, and you can go back and listen to those at the Brouhaha. But for now, it's time to say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
And we'll see you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Get us out of here, Jamie.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Dale McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.